more power over tenants, increasing incidents of discrimination and retaliation. These conditions make it easy for a landlord to refuse when a tenant asks for a repair and demands accounting for bogus fees or deposit charges. These challenges that renters face, especially rent hikes, evictions, and other forms of displacement, are especially dire for tenants with high barriers and members of protected classes under the Fair Housing Act. Tenants cannot wait for incremental change. We need bold, courageous action to address this human-made disaster. Building-wide, no-cause evictions are popping up like brush fires across the city, fanning the flames of displacement in our communities continue to bleed. The flood of speculation from Wall Street, corporate landlords, and private investors buying up buildings to empty them and raise rents has dire consequences on people's health, economic stability, and their children's educational opportunities. We need real leadership from this housing commissioner, this mayor, and this city council. We are in a renter state of emergency. In CAT's 19-year history, we have never seen it this bad. Tenants are in dire distress and in need of immediate relief. Mass evictions of entire buildings, 30, 50, even 100% increases are impacting our communities and threatening the social fabric of our city, and there is no end in sight. We can count the number of cranes in the air right now, building more luxury apartments. But how many of these new apartments will be available and affordable to low-income and even middle-income renters? When will we go and recognize that building only market rate luxury apartments will never trickle down to lower-income tenants, no matter how many we build, despite all the zoning changes, cash incentives, and sweetheart deals we offer to developers? How long does this council think it takes to find a decent apartment in our region? How many affordable apartments are in your neighborhood? Likely with good schools, transportation options, low crime, and neighbors you know and trust. How long would it take you to move if you received a no-cause termination notice tomorrow? Now imagine if you had a bad credit from a foreclosure, medical debt, or student loans. Would you qualify? Imagine if you received a no-cause notice after you had asked for a repair. Would you put that landlord as a reference on your next rental application? Imagine you had a criminal record because you had been once sleeping outside and arrested from these homeless suites. Imagine if you had been racially profiled or a victim of this war on drugs that targets African Americans and people of color. Would you qualify for an apartment? Imagine if you made minimum wage to support your family and worked the 72 hours per week it takes to afford a modest 2-bedroom apartment. Where would you find the time to move?
Right on.
Oh, yeah.
Would 30, 60, or even 90 days be enough? In order to move, you have to take days off of work to find a vacancy, pay multiple application fees, hope and pray that you are finally accepted, move your family, change your children's school, find a new bus route to work, pay the deposit, first and last month's rent, pay the movers, clean the house, and pray you get even a fraction of your cost. Dude, keep your job! How long would that process take for you? Is 30, 60, or 90 days enough?
No.
Do you have money in your savings to do that? For the majority of tenants, the answer is no. Low-income tenants, people of color, people with disabilities, working families making poverty wages, and seniors in a fixed income are being told, if you don't like it, move. Which really means you are no longer welcome to live in the city. Tenants are tired and in distress. Tired of moving, tired of our homes making us sick, tired of paying over half of our income on rent. Tenants are tired of being silenced out of fear, out of retribution, or a bad reference from the landlord. Tenants are tired of being told that our voices, our experience, our stories don't matter. Tenants are tired of hearing housing will have to wait. We have more important priorities right now. Tenants make up almost half of Portland's population and deserve to be heard. It's time for bold, courageous leadership from our housing commissioner, from our mayor, and from our city council. If you want to see examples of leadership, look to Chair Kafori and the County Board of Commissioners who have committed to housing every homelessness veteran by the end of the year with a home for everyone. Look to Governor Kate Brown, who helped champion $62 million for housing in her first year. Look to Speaker Tina Kotek, who fought to include tenants with Section 8 as a protected class under the Fair Housing Act, and fought to include rentals in this year's inclusionary zoning bill, which ultimately died in the Senate. If If you want to see examples of real courage, look at all the renters that are here today, despite their fear of retaliation from their landlord when they speak out. It's time to recognize that Portland is not livable, equitable, nor sustainable when tenants are being pushed out of their homes. It's time to recognize that housing is a human right, and that should not be left to the underregulated free market. It's time to prioritize the needs of all Portland residents, not just the landlords and investors, tech companies like Airbnb and developers. It's time to prioritize people over profit and recognize that everyone. We can no longer wait for incremental change or accept the breadcrumbs that are thrown to us so we can count it as a win. If the intent of this 90-day proposal is to act as the first step and building block of real change, and have the commitment of this housing commissioner, mayor, and council of enacting real immediate change, then we can support it. If the intent of this 90-day proposal is to say that you've done all you can do and go back to business as usual, then we cannot. We are calling for a moratorium or suspension of no-cause terminations for 1 year, and to increase the notice period of rent increases over 5% of rent from the current 30 days to 1 year. 30, 60, or 90 days of notice is not enough, either to move quickly or absorb a shocking rent increase, especially in today's disaster-like housing crisis. We will no longer accept that your hands are tied due to explicit or implicit preemption in Oregon state laws. If that is the case, then demonstrate the courage and leadership necessary to either change them or challenge them. The Supreme Court of the United States has reaffirmed disparate impact under the Fair Housing Act, so let's use it. Both the City of Portland and the State of Oregon are currently compiling their analysis of impediments to a third moving further in fair housing. Evictions, rent hikes, displacement, and substandard housing are fair housing issues and should be treated as such. These unjust laws and policies, such as the ban on rent control, inclusionary zoning, and the no-cause evictions statute, should be challenged, just as the landlords will likely challenge this modest proposal by Housing Commissioner Saltzman. Tenants can no longer wait for our Housing Commissioner, Mayor, and City Council to act. We need bold, courageous leadership in this human-made disaster. We are in a renter state of emergency.
Thank you very much. Okay, folks, I'm going to ask, please, let's use hand gestures. I know you did a great job. Thank you. But we need to let everybody be heard. So obviously, regardless of point of view, we got to try to keep it nonverbal. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Deborah Imsey with Multifamily Northwest, a trade association that represents owners and managers that house over 175,000 units in the state. I want to begin this afternoon by sharing how committed both I and my members are to housing. Our mission statement is promoting quality rental housing, and we were actively involved in and continue to be in the Ending Homeless Vet program that Justin just mentioned. Multifamily Northwest understands that the current extremely low vacancy housing market is causing challenges for renters looking for available units at their price range. We believe that this is a short-term market condition, exacerbated by years of underbuilding for multifamily demand, that will be addressed in the long term by increasing the supply of housing at all affordable levels. There is a critical difference between using a 30-day end of tenancy notice to renovate many units in a building or after a sale, and the infrequent but important times when it is used to protect the overall safety and well-being of the residents in a unit. For example, an end of tenancy would be given under multiple tenant complaints about drug or gang activity to the manager or the police. Declining to renew the lease with a 30-day notice is a critical tool for managers, especially in cases where complaining tenants do not want to testify for fear of retaliation from that problem tenant. A 90-day notice for all lease agreements would not only put other tenants at risk, but likely result in responsible, good renters moving to a place they feel safer. In recognition of the current market conditions and that supply cannot be built overnight. Multifamily Northwest can support a temporary change to end of tenancy notices in the case of a sale or major renovation. The framework around that would be a 90-day requirement for end of tenancy notices for multifamily buildings of 5 or more units if 15% or more of the units are noticed for remodeling for at least $7,500 or within 12 months of the building's sale. All other end of tenancy notices would follow current state law, 30 under 60, 60 over a year, 30 under a year, 60 over a year. A policy review at 12 months and a hard sunset in 2 years. Regarding the second proposal before City Council, we believe that a requirement for 90-day notice on rent increases is controlled by state law and cannot be adopted at the local level. Multifamily Northwest opposes any changes to the state law regarding rent rates because rent control does not address supply and it does not achieve affordability. San Francisco is a stark example of the failures of rent control. Rents there have dramatically increased and far fewer affordable housing units have been built there compared to what has been built in Portland. Multifamily Northwest works with housing advocates through the Landlord-Tenant Coalition to develop important state housing policy and discuss current housing issues, and will continue to do so. While the new housing cannot be developed overnight, we strongly urge the Council to focus its efforts on housing policy that encourage more housing to be built faster through simplification of current tools and employing new ones. Multifamily Northwest supports. Let's improve the approval and design process for both nonprofit and private housing developers to reduce the time it takes to complete these multifamily housing projects. Revise code, create incentives that facilitate infill and affordability. Eliminate zoning restrictions that allow only single-family homes in neighborhoods and encourage row houses, triplexes, cottages, and accessory dwelling units for long-term rentals. Waive permit fees for multifamily buildings that can renovate existing space to add additional housing units. Use Airbnb funds beyond cost recovery for bond affordable housing, as was recently suggested by Mr. Krieger. Advocating for additional funding for affordable housing development, such as recording fee surcharges for 2 to 4 years. Multifamily looks forward to our continued collaboration with the city and state officials, as well as private and nonprofit developers, to increase the supply of affordable housing to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Stoll.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Stoll. I am here representing our family, and I will only speak from personal experience because our family has owned rental properties in Portland since 1950. And in that time, we have never given a no-cause notice simply to raise rent on a unit. What we have a problem with is if we have a tenant who is a smoker in their unit. All of our properties are non-smoking. The tenant's smoking, neighbors complain. We go to the tenant and say, hey, you can't smoke in your unit. It's not me, I'm not smoking. So on we go. Tenant next door complains again, there is smoke. I see the tenant outside on their patio smoking. So we give the tenant a 30-day for-cause notice. The tenant says, it's not me, I'm not smoking, I cured the problem if there was one, so the notice is rescinded.